Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mark Hannigan, CEO of Fortior Ventures and Partner at Greenbackers Investment Capital, Matt Byrne, Open Innovation Manager at Technip FMC, and Michelle Stansbury, Vice President of Innovation and IT Applications at Houston Methodist. Let's give them a round of applause, guys. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Hope you're going to enjoy this final session of the day, and we promise to keep it entertaining for you in advance of the bar, of course, best part of the day. So I just want to explain a little bit about the title of the panel and the topic that we're going to dig into here a little bit before I let my panelists properly introduce themselves. Okay, Bear and the Butterfly. Why the heck is the panel called the Bear and the Butterfly? So I'm just going to take a moment to explain. We've spent the whole day talking about innovation, great innovation, and we've seen lots of evidence of great innovation across aerospace, healthcare, and energy. But what I want to dig into in this panel today with my esteemed guests is how effectively the large mainstream companies, be it in healthcare or aerospace or energy, find and interact with the best little startups and scale-ups that are providing the innovation that moves the dial. It sounds very straightforward, but it's not. So for the purposes of the analogy and for the next hour, the big corporation is the grizzly bear, and the little startup or scale-up is the butterfly. They don't always play nicely together. So quick straw poll. Hands up in the audience if you, loosely speaking, work for the big corporation. Okay, not that many bears. Hands up if you work with or are affiliated with a startup or a scale-up, the butterfly. Okay, more butterflies than bears. And hands up if you're neither of those. Okay, well, a little bit of something different. Okay, so that's what we're going to dig into today. Intrinsically by nature, bears find it difficult to play with butterflies, and butterflies are very, very scared and intimidated by bears. So that's the analogy we're going to go with. The objective today is, if you are a bear, so to speak, or a butterfly, you should come away from today's panel discussion with some new insights and thinking around how you can more effectively interact with the other party. So that's the objective of the discussion. We may have time for questions at the end, so please pay attention. I have two bears on my panel, so I'm just going to let them introduce themselves, explain what their roles are at their current companies, and how they are involved in this bear-butterfly dynamic. Matt?
How's it going? Matt Byrne, Technip FMC. So my role is the Open Innovation Manager, and that fundamentally falls into two major categories. One is I go and do a lot of technology scouting, so looking at digital, manufacturing, subsea, etc., all the different technologies. But two, more importantly, is actually helping that startup company navigate the corporate world and define the business unit that they would most be applied to. In all of that, it's then about how do we get some kind of proof of concept pilot off the ground so that the value of those startups can actually be shown to the business. And if all goes successful, I kind of fade out into the background because the relationship moves away from me, and that startup actually has the relationship with the business.
Got it. And Michelle?
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad that you're here. Is this working?
It's working, just not very loud.
Better? Okay, now I'm yelling at you. All right. So, still sounds a little loud to me, but we'll go with it. So, Michelle Stansbury, I'm the Vice President at Houston Methodist I hold kind of dual roles. One is the traditional IT, over all of the application suite, and then the other one is the Vice President within our Center for Innovation, which is kind of what I'm here to talk about, but it really plays into both. So my innovation role is that we're really out searching for innovative solutions that help us with problems that we're trying to solve in our organization. And we know that because part of our innovation team also holds people that are in traditional operational roles within the hospitals as well, or our clinics. And once we find an innovative solution that we believe will help solve our problems, we bring them in, and we bring them into our R&D space, our technology hub, similar to what we have over here. We bring it up so that our clinicians can see it, to see if they believe it's a true value. If it is, then we select sort of a pilot area that we pilot it in. And then after that, if all goes well, then we all kind of put back on our traditional hats. And I put my IT hat back on, and the operational areas put their hats back on, so that we can scale it very, very quickly across our organization to be able to bring that value to Houston Methodist as quickly as possible.
Thank you both. Maybe another show of hands. I'm trying to keep it interactive, conscious of the beer. So hands up if you've experienced challenges in dealing with the other party in the bear and the butterfly environment. Yeah, so pretty much everybody. Yeah, it really is tough. I do think this is a good topic. And to contrast how that dynamic works in the energy sector and how that dynamic works in the healthcare sector, and hopefully we can identify learnings for one another. So perhaps again, starting with Matt and then going to Michelle, could you describe for the room how, in the energy sector today, which is of course undergoing huge transition, how does innovation work? Like, what is the pathway from the kitchen table entrepreneur to the large license agreement, or ultimately being bought out by the big what does that ecosystem look like? What are the key steps?
It's a really, really big ecosystem, as we're probably all aware. You're going to have university-born R&D all the way up through, let's say, medium-scale post-revenue type companies, and interacting with them, whether you're from the university, coming out of an accelerator or an incubator, or just pre-revenue as well. A lot of the time I'm talking with the startups, it's really to show and look for technology. I know a lot of people are definitely looking for, to be bought out or whatever the case may be. But really, I would say if I had to kind of turn the question around slightly for those who are out in the crowd, those startups, asking the corporates, are you looking for a technology-driven, or is there a financial piece?
Yes.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Personally, we're looking for access to technology. So the whole value proposition will always start with, what is that technology?
And maybe I should clarify, thanks for saying that. So this is not about startups finding venture capital and investors. This is about startups help convincing big companies to use their products and use their technology. That's what this debate is. Okay, thank you. Did you want to continue?
No, by all means.
Okay.
No, it's a valid point. And I mean, I want to make sure and focus this in, because really within Houston Methodist, there are a lot of innovation that is happening. One is truly in our R&D space, research in our research institute, and then many, many clinical innovations. And you've seen some of them even talking about with pumps and pipes in this event, and Dr. Lumsden. And my focus is really kind of on in the digital space and the digital tech. And so, for us, we really are out looking for solutions that are probably not in that alpha zone, that you're not, not someone who has just a creative idea, but you have a product and you're looking, and you may even have it in a smaller institution, but you're really looking for a big health system to bring it into and help you further develop it. Now, we don't invest in companies, but what we do is we give you our time and effort. We give you our sweat equity to help you further develop this product that makes it work for this big, massive health system. Because if you can do that and get past all of our security requirements, one of the other things that we do very well for you is that we'll go out and really talk about the company and what you've done for us. And so for Houston Methodist to be able to speak to that is really a big benefit overall to that organization. But how do we find those companies? How it is that we do? I will tell you, we go a lot out to different conferences. We get people that want to come talk to us here. We host a lot, but I will tell you, and I know I have to say this because we get a lot of requests to meet with us, and I don't want to dissuade anyone from not coming to meet with us, but I will tell you about 75% of the people that really come and talk to us, they just have a great idea, but they don't quite know what that idea, what problem is it going to solve? And I will tell you, that's what we're very much focused on. What problem is your product going to solve at a healthcare organization? And what do you see that it's bringing value? So what is that return on the investment? You know, is it going to create efficiencies in the clinical department? Is it going to create an experience, better an experience for that patient and that journey for them coming to us?
And is it fair to say if you can't articulate that, you're not ready yet? You're not ready.
You're not ready.
Yeah.
I know sometimes you're just looking for advice. You really want to speak to someone in healthcare to kind of help advise you along this journey. And, you know, by all means, we want to be helpful, but we're also, too, trying to make sure that we're bringing in the right organizations. And I will tell you, there are tons. The ION here, there's other people that will really help you in that journey. We want to get you, when you're at that right spot, that you're really needing to help expand and better define your product so that it helps meet an organization's needs.
Got it. A couple of observations. So one of the things I like about this panel makeup is, and I'm sure it's part of the genesis of Pumps and Pipes, is two highly regulated industries where consequences of failure are catastrophic. So that's why you guys have to be so choosy and make sure that it's the right industry, that it's the right technology. I want to double down on the thesis a little bit. The bear and the butterfly thesis is something we use at Greenbackers. And our observation is that maybe up until 10 years ago, big companies generally had three ways of obtaining new technology. Either A, they would invent it in their own R&D lab, but a lot of those are gone now, downsizings and leanification. And B, they would just buy a little company that was, you know, eating their lunch and impressing, just take them out, acquire them. Little tech startups don't want to be acquired. Or C, they would find it in the supply chain. But what we're finding in the world, the modern world now, Industry 4.0, is that none of those three levers work anymore. So big corporations need to get involved with earlier stage companies for tech that hasn't been invented in their own R&D lab, by companies that don't want to just be acquired and swallowed up by the big corporation, and it's not de-risked enough yet to be in the supply chain. So that's why we have this, how do we solve this kind of thing.
And I'd actually say, you know, Michelle and I were at lunch talking about this. You have a lot of corporations who have a focus. You have a core technology. We're really good, for example, at subsea oil and gas or medical, whatever the case is. We're not technically known for a digital data company, right? And so we do have a very strong core product, but this is where that innovation actually comes in, and being able to work with startups and early stage companies is that there's this gray zone that you actually can bolt onto that core technology to truly enhance it, to really bring it to the next level. And that's really where we want to be interacting with the startups and understanding it, because that's where I think that value starts to shine.
You're absolutely right. And I mean, for us, and if you're really very familiar with the electronic health, you know, vendors that are out there, the two biggest ones are Epic and Cerner, right? And, you know, if you really want to, you know, see how your product can provide value, you need to start having the conversations with the two, you know, EHR vendors out there. But sometimes it's difficult. Look, if you're just some small, you know, newly formed company here, and, you know, that's where I said really articulate what value that your product is bringing to the organization. And we help. I mean, we will help you get involved overall, because it's not easy with these big companies that are out there. But the true value is going to come when you can integrate your product into them, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's the other thing that we were talking about at lunch is, you know, when we talk to people about, you know, some of the things that we're looking for and what we will and what we will not do. Yeah, I think most corporations have to really ask themselves, what do you want to make sure that you're good at, and what do you know that you'll never do, mm-hmm. right? And I mean, for us, and we learned this a very different path, but yes, there's one smiling up there at me, who've been on that journey with me here. But anyway, is we finally had to decide at some point that we're not a software company. We had been on the journey of co-developing something with an organization, and really had to come down and say, we're not. We're a healthcare organization. We take care of patients. That's what we do. We don't develop software. We don't maintain it. We don't continue to reiterate it. And so that was a journey that we started and we had to walk away from, because that's what we're looking for, true entrepreneurs that are out there that are helping us overall to develop the solutions that we want to bring in. We don't want to maintain them. That's not what our job is. Our job is to use that technology to be able to help us in what we do, which is taking care of our patients.
Thank you. So I want to touch on two other topics related there. And the first one is technology maturity, and the second one is culture. So we'll do maturity first. So my sectoral experience is the energy industry, like Matt, and my observation is that, you know, if you haven't developed a prototype, tested it, got your market, got a 5-year business plan, protected your IP, have a go-to-market strategy, if you haven't checked 3 or 4 of those boxes, you're almost wasting your time going, you're just too early. You know, that there are a set of criteria for the energy industry, loose criteria, and I'm sure it's the same for the healthcare industry. But could you give some insight into what would your ideal new technology candidate shows up on your doorstep? What boxes would they have checked?
So if I got the magic wand,
yeah.
I get to really
Yeah.
prescriptive.
You do.
I would actually say that you are past your, let's say, bench scale prototype.
Yeah.
And you're almost ready to get out into the field, but under the guise of, let's say, you know, some safety sandbox, you know, because we're not going to just throw anything on production right off the bat.
Yeah.
So if I had to say that would, for me, that would kind of be that sweet spot right there. Now, when we're talking about TRL, fundamentally, you know, we've dealt with, you know, napkin sketch.
Sorry, technology readiness level,
yeah.
for those who are not familiar.
Appreciate it. You know, we've dealt with those who just have a sketch on a napkin because it's a very unique proposition, all the way up to post-revenue. So it's not to say you can't. It's just, if we're looking at that sweet spot, viability at
Yeah.
those much earlier stages is a lot more difficult.
And what would be the equivalent for health?
No, I would agree, and this is because we were kind of comparing notes, you know, at lunch, and I think I've kind of said this, and I'm going to use a different terminology. Maybe some of you recognize it's like we don't deal with alpha companies. I mean, they're just too early in the startup process.
What does alpha mean for the non-medical people in the room?
Well, it's not even medical. It's kind of software in general.
Okay.
I would say it's you have.
Or for the hardware people in the room.
Okay, for the hardware people in the room. Well, you've got, you know, an idea, and you've probably built a prototype, but you really don't have, you know, where you've gone and fully tested it out, where you have a beta version.
Got it. Alpha
a beta
testing.
version
Got
is
it.
right.
Got
More,
it.
it's been,
Yeah.
and usually you'll have in a beta process where it is that you might have gotten an organization, a smaller one, maybe
Yeah.
a little larger one, that would put it in some sort of test environment for you to be able to test it out. that is what we're looking for,
Yeah.
right? And the reason why is because it's the time and effort that really it takes, and when you're looking at an alpha product, because it's the iteration after iteration to really progress you along. When you get to beta, you're pretty honing in on what your product's going to do, right? And so what you need then is just more guidance from us in this big, large health system now. How do you, what else do you need to do to bring value to the health system? How do you get it integrated into an EMR if it needs to happen? Security standards. How many of y'all had to deal with healthcare organizations? Yes, you know the security standards that we have, which are just almost outrageous, but we have to. But those are the kind of things that we're willing to work with you on, because our security standards are very, very high. So I tell most organizations, we might be stressing you out a lot, but I'm going to tell you, once you pass our security standards, you will pass probably anybody else that you want to go work with. But those are the things that we help you with. We try to tell you, right, what your product you need to change into it, and we bring it in and give you feedback. Which is value added overall to you, to really know that you're building a product that can really help and bring value overall to a health system. But it really is that in that beta version. We don't tend to go out and do a true startup.
Yeah, that's really insightful. And I would say, if anybody's sitting in the audience asking, okay, well, how do I get from kitchen table to beta or TRL 5 or 6? That's a whole other discussion, but there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I would say, and that's what separates the winners from the non-winners. I think the entrepreneurs in the room are nodding. Okay, next topic. Let's say I'm a startup and I meet those criteria, right? I find my way to you, which that in itself can be difficult, right? And maybe we should click into that. But I want to talk about culture. So what you're doing, so let's say I find my way to you. I am a fly by the seat of my pants. My mortgage is at risk with my business. I'm the chief cook, bottle washer, bookkeeper, CEO of my venture, and I'm sitting across from a one of hundreds of corporate executives, polished MBA, supported by an ERP system, back office, everything, What can we say about that? The tech can be right, but the culture.
I would start off with one piece of advice for the startups is, again, we're looking for technology, so make sure you are ready and have your value proposition of the technology honed in and able to talk about it. But then you need a non-technical value proposition, because when we're dealing with these larger corporations, you're going to have a mixture of the business mixed with the technology. And so to be able to kind of win both sides, to have that highest viability. But if pivoting a little more to a very more personal piece is, at least the culture at my company is very embracing of the innovation. You start getting a few victories when you're doing like early stage exploratory pilots, and then one kind of begets another, and you actually start seeing, we can go and look and explore technologies. We could do it within the safe compounds of, not hitting our production systems, etc. And that actually helps the culture at the company for the bears. Right. So it's kind of multifaceted, not only from what the startup can do, but what a company internally can do to kind of help accept those innovative ideas.
Yeah, I do think your role as a kind of startup-facing guy inside a big corporation, but you can think like a startup, and then you go and advocate for them internally, and I think your role is similar, Michelle. I think that does help. Do you have any? I think you do have some views on the culture, including the big corporate HQ thing.
The thing that I would just say is, sometimes I think, trying to think about coming into some of these big corporations, it can be kind of scary. But just remember, these big corporations are also trying to look for you, right? And what are the things that you're trying to offer, as long as it sort of meets the criteria. But as we find solutions, and we do all the time, but when we find them, we bring them in for different pilots. And as I said, usually it's in our technology hub. We'll set it up there, kind of showcase it, have people, our clinicians, come and look at it, or whomever the operational component that it's solving that problem. But the one thing that we do extremely well, and it can be overall challenging sometimes to a newer company, is that if the solution proves value added, we're wanting to roll it out quickly, and I mean fast. So getting that new tech in, and if it means devices too that you're having to bring in, and what are your people that you're going to bring in, and it's like, whoa, okay, rolling out to 2,500 beds, in the next few months, that sometimes can seem overwhelming. But that is for us. We're here to try to work, with overall the organizations on whatever it may be. But I think that kind of gets back to the culture, and what we're trying to do is if we find a solution and it works well, we try to scale very, very quickly in helping those organizations, because we want to bring in the value. If we see value, and we want that value to be shown to our organization quick and not over a long period of time.
And you mentioned the big HQ. You guys are located here. You have a presence here in the ION.
We are. And we did that. We did it very purposely. We wanted to be in here in this space because, look, sometimes coming down to the hospital, this big hospital down in the med center can seem kind of overwhelming, which is where our other technology R&D space is. And so, for us, when we very first came here before the ION opened, we were very excited because of the opportunities to be able to engage with, one, the entrepreneurs that are in here, to see what technology and things or solutions that they're developing, but also the cross-industry collaboration. And, Pumps and Pipes is a prime example of how that works. And so, for that, if there's things that you want to try to showcase in this space that we have over here, seems to be working great, seems like something we're very interested in, then it's very easy for us to bring you down into our true R&D space down over within our own healthcare system right down the street.
Yeah, so if you're sitting there in the audience and either you're a startup, Butterfly, or a big corporation, Bear, and you're thinking, man, I just cannot get a break. I cannot get the right people to call me back. I cannot get a meeting. I cannot get in the door. I don't know who to talk to. Or in the case of the big corporation, I just cannot find these great technology ventures. Everything I find is too early or it's not proven. Save up those questions. We're going to have time, and let's sweat this panel a little bit. Let's make them earn their bottle of water. Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of my favorite parts. I'd like 2 examples from each of you. An example of when the Bear and the Butterfly it just worked like a dream, and when it ended very badly. So one of each. Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first. We've got several examples, but I will tell you probably about 4 years ago, we needed a solution to remind our patients over all of their appointments. We found a very small company that had started offering text-based notifications. And how many of us love our text that we get, right? I mean, we're all so used to it now. Everybody hates getting a phone call. So we found a company that was fairly new. Again, it was one of those things. They had been a part of an incubator program at another health system, had a product now. They were looking for another big health system. And we signed up with them, and I will tell you, since the time that was after we have signed up, we're now doing bi-directional texting with them. We have got other solutions that we are offering and working on with them, and they're a well-known company now that are in most other big health systems. Another one, and I will tell you, we have our categories within our Center for Innovation. You either graduate, so you move on and we roll it out, or you come in our rest in peace category. And so
Valley of Death, right?
Yes, there you go. And we have those as well. And I would say any true innovator, if you don't have that R&P, rest in peace category, you're not innovating quite a bit. Yeah. But it was an organization that we tried working with that would help with predicting when volumes would increase just from the from ED visits, from ambulance, and it was all part of overall on our data, and we just could never get it to work. We had an organization, I think we probably worked with them longer than we probably should have, but we wanted to give it a really good yeoman's chance to work, and it didn't work. I will tell you, we tried a second solution, and it didn't work either. So part of it, I think, too, and I don't know if you find this, sometimes it's not the company. Sometimes it's you, and just the way it is that you have your organization set up, and overall in your data. And so I wouldn't, while I called it, it's in our rest in peace category, I mean, I wouldn't say that it was all just the company either.
Fair. So you're asking about the good and the bad,
Right.
and I'll start with the nightmare. We are working in the energy sector, and remote energy and use of remote energy is pretty key to a lot of our operations. And a company came in, and it was interesting enough that we actually brought in some technical people, pretty impressive minds from the company. And in the middle of watching the founder present their technology, we had some fairly basic questions, and the founder of the startup actually told us that we weren't smart enough to understand his technology, and that we have to take it at face value, and that
Oh man.
that didn't go over as well as I think he would have hoped.
Yeah.
So, but we have some success stories too, and it actually is in a similar vein. There are startups that I interact with, and you start seeing potential from them. And it's not just a one technology, one solution, that you actually see that they have a solution that can actually begin moving into multiple applications. And not going down too much of a long story, it just wasn't the right time, just given, sometimes this time of year, we're finishing up budgets, etc.
Sure.
So you want to time some of these pilots and introductions well, keeping in touch with that startup founder, actually waiting just a few months to then introduce it to the business, we actually came up with like 4 or 5 different areas that we could pilot it in, and then said, okay, that's a little ambitious. Let's go and hone it down. Let's get the one so that we can actually see proof. We can see how we work together, and then that opens up to these multiple applications. I mean, if that's not a victory, I mean, that's a hard one to top.
Yeah, I would even add to that, and that's one of the things that we really do very well in working with all of these organizations, is that we find you might have come in for just one use case that you can solve, but we look at your solution to see if there's multiple other ways that with modifications to it, to where it is that it's solving many other use cases that we have, and we've done that really, really well on many vendors. So they walk away not only with solving one problem, but now solving multiple problems for an organization, which just makes you more value added to the healthcare industry.
Great points. I'm going to add 2 more points to that, but I'm just going to give the sound team a heads up that we're going to get that roving microphone, sound team, for the questions. They're just going to be ready for that in a minute. Okay. I was going to add 2 other things, timing and being thick-skinned. So I think sometimes it's the right pitch at the wrong time, and 1 year later, it's the right pitch at the right time.
Absolutely.
And you just can't give up. You gotta stay at it if you believe that your value proposition is valid. And secondly, thick skin. It's brutal out there. If there's any founders in the audience, it is brutal. It's not good for your ego, not good for your self-esteem. You just gotta not take it personally and keep going. So, are we good to start with some questions, Ariel? I think we want to get value. So, anything you've heard today, any questions for the panelists, any experiences you want to share, please hand up. We'll get the microphone to you. Right there, gentleman in the gilet.
So when it's time to scale these technologies into the business and you hit the wall of like, okay, we've been super agile this whole time, right? With this new startup, and now we're gonna put this at scale into our organization. How do you guys make that transition? Is that set up there within procurement? Do you have like your own, funding that you guys use? You don't have to go get other stuff, because you kind of run into a wall at one point of being fast and agile and scaling, right?
I can answer that. This is where the dual roles in the organization that I say that I hold, as well as everyone else on our innovation. Our chief innovation officer is also the CEO of that hospital down in the med center. I traditionally hold the IT. So once things from an innovation perspective, the pilot runs well and it is ready to scale, look, we put on our other hats. So I have all the IT resources I need to make it happen, to get it at scale. And all the operational leaders, they know that it's their jobs to make sure that it gets operationalized within our organization as quickly as possible, because we don't do this just for the fun of it, right? We do this because it's trying to solve a problem, bring value into our organization. So what you don't want is, oh, great, it works, but it's going to take us 3 years to get it rolled out, right? No, we try to do that as fast as possible, and that's how we're able to do it, is because we each have the other resources that we need to get it done as fast as possible.
The only thing I'd add on to that is, there's a lot of things that can be done in parallel. When we kick off a pilot and we start seeing early success, we're going to begin talking about, okay, what does it look like to scale up? How can you get out there? What about geography 1, 2, 3? What would you say is the best push and pull for you? And then, there are times where it's like you, the corporate, will ask the startup, okay, what would you need? Do you have manufacturing set up? Do you need it? Are you in need of engineering hours, et cetera? Michelle talks about in-kind investment fundamentally.
Right.
That's the nice piece about some of these larger organizations. I know we've even had to help procure, unique raw material or something of that nature. It's even just the request that we can pull a resource very quickly just to get an idea to point you in the direction.
I want to applaud that gentleman. So we got 38 minutes in before the P word, procurement, was mentioned. Often the enemy of the startup trying to break into the big organization. The number of times, live examples right now, the number of times where the hard work is done, the pitch has been bought, the business wants to use the tech, but you're not a registered vendor. Those are the words you do not want to hear, right? It's like the paperwork. You've sold us on your technology, the paperwork. It's just a fact of life. Can you say who you are, and then your role, and then your question, please? Thank you.
I'm Jack Morelli, retired from Chevron, Texaco, Getty, Aramco. My question is that if your technology is valuable to a company that you're talking to, it probably is also valuable to other companies. So how do we, in a reasonable, ethical way, negotiate a variety of deals across the energy sector, for example? Yeah. Is that something you've had exposure with?
I've actually talked to one company who was their technology quite valuable, very interesting technology, but they were also going for a raise. And actually we said, we'll not participate in your raise. You don't want us on your cap table. We want to use your technology. We'll participate in it, and that way you're open to others. So there are times that we try to stay technology agnostic, and that's not only for your protection, that's also for ours. There might be a year down the road another technology that might come up, right? And if you're not honing your edge continuously, we might need to pivot ourselves. So that protection goes both ways.
Maybe before we do healthcare, if I could add to that, I don't know if you were exposed to JIP's, joint industry projects, which I think this is an energy industry phenomenon where a number of competing peer companies will share the risk of trying the technology and advancing it to a certain stage, and then it's kind of open season on who wants exclusivity. So I'm a big fan of GIPs. They can be bureaucratic and slow, but it is a good example of competing companies sharing the risk to move the technology to the next level. Do you have anything like that?
We do that overall within healthcare. It's usually, in organizations or whatever that we partner with on a, continually basis. I will tell you why you think, healthcare is a very large, if you look across, the United States and the country, it is a very small world and how we talk with each other. But I hear you, and I mean, one of the things that I would say is, what are you really looking for? Right, when you're out there, are you really looking just for funding, trying to sell your product? Are you looking for, funding overall for your company? Again, one of the reasons that most people are coming to Houston Methodist is because they know, one, that we are willing to really share with them on how can you better develop your product. And sometimes that is such value added to them that, that's the reason they're really trying to get into us, because they're looking for this big health system. And then the other thing that we do extremely well is that we'll go out and we'll promote your company, because we're out talking about what we do with innovation all the time, and we're not afraid to mention company names. This is the company that we're working for that's doing this for us. Here's the project that we've done right now, and this is the company that we're working for. So you're almost getting free advertising from Houston Methodist in that way.
Yeah, and sometimes the kudos of that first anchor client is more valuable than a PO or a capital investment, that validation from a big brand. Mm-hmm. So sometimes a startup, it's the right thing to do to take one for the team to make that happen sometimes, I think.
Yeah, getting validation in any market with a large customer is
huge.
Quite huge.
Yeah, and nobody wants to be first, but you guys clearly do it when it's the right technology. Some more questions for this learned panel? Yep. Gentleman in the glasses.
Thank you very much. Quick question. So what's your recommendation to connect with the right person in the organization, the decision maker? Because a lot of time, those people, they are not in the conferences or social networking events, and it's really hard to get hold of them. And even if you get their email address and send one slide about your technology, we are a startup technology, and you don't get any response, anything. So
I love that question, and I know you both want to.
It is a valuable question that I'm sure everyone in here wants the magic answer.
Yeah.
Yes, and I would tell you there is no magic answer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's just a combination of a lot of things. We are out at conferences all the time because that's where we find a lot of the solutions that we're looking for. People know kind of our Center for Innovation at Houston Methodist. We have a lot of interest in people coming and meeting with us here. I think you just have to be persistent, and this is what I would tell you. But you know what? The thing is, and just remember, most people you're trying to deal with get thousands of emails and communications. And so what's making yours unique? What is that tagline that's out there going to make someone look at it and go, oh, I want to open it and read this one, not just, the general of whatever it may be. And that's where it is. How are you trying to differentiate yourself that makes somebody want to really look at overall of what you're trying to do?
I mean, I can't agree anymore. The only other piece that I might add on to that to actually start asking the questions. I mean, every company's innovation is structured slightly different. I mean, my job is to actually take off that Technip FMC hat, put on the hat of the startup, and I go to the decision maker, the head of that business unit. But not every company has that. Some have very great, processes on how they vet through things. Some companies I know only receive their innovation through deal flow, through VCs. If you look at any large company, they each have their unique way on how they ingest it, and honestly talking to the people within those companies to understand who who and how to navigate is quite honestly difficult even for people internal to the company, let alone if you're external.
Yeah.
So being persistent is
I've got to add to that. I love that topic. You can spend a year and then realize you've been talking to the wrong person. So some really practical advice. Do not cold call on the phone. It's so off-putting. Do not cold email. Do not cold LinkedIn. Don't do it. You've got a 1 in a million shot of the person going, just what I've always been looking for, randomly out of the blue on my LinkedIn. What do you know? That just does not happen. So my 2 pieces of advice, born of lots of years, are if I need to get to someone, my most effective way is find a conference I know their feet. So let's say I needed to get to Houston Methodist, right? I needed to get to Michelle. I would be in this audience right now, and the second she walked off that stage, and I'm sorry if you get flooded with people.
No, it happens a lot, so.
That is the moment, and you say, I loved your insight on the panel. You got to have your elevator pitch down 30 seconds. Michelle, this is my thing. Could I get some time in your diary? Or who should I speak to? You've got that 30-second window. That's the single most effective. Second most effective way is use LinkedIn. Do you have a second-degree connection? Do you know someone who knows that person? And just shamelessly ask for a favor. Can you warm introduce me to that person? But cold calling, forget it, man. And it'll destroy your self-esteem too, because they never reply. So I love that question.
Your network is your
net
net
worth.
That's it.
Right? I
Yes.
mean, it's who you know and how you could get those introductions. I mean, whether you're a large corporate or a startup out there, I mean, we all have 24 hours in a day. Finding the right people that can open doors.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of value there.
But there are do's and don'ts, definitely, in my opinion, that would improve your chances of success. What else we got? That question you're thinking about asking, just ask it. Come on. The time will pass. We'll have a beer in 10 minutes. Come on. There you go.
Hi, Victor Cush with ACT Capital. Thank you for the great panel. How do we learn about your priorities, what you care about? Because, we can try and get into you and all that kind of thing, but if you don't care about what we're talking about, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
No, it's a very valid question, and it is something that I will tell you I've been talking with my team about, and he's over there smiling because he knows. Because we get a lot of interest that people want to work with us, and I love it. I'm just going to tell you, I really do love all the interest of people coming, but I don't want to waste your time either when it's not helping us. So we've been talking about doing a reverse pitch. A reverse pitch to you all right here so that you can know, one, what are we working on and what other problems are we trying to solve overall within our organization, that you could go, oh, okay, yes, I've been thinking about doing something in that aspect, or I do have a product that could potentially help that. Then you could come and, and even schedule some more time with us. But, I agree with you. It's, here's the one thing that I do want to say. Y'all don't stop. Keep after it. Keep trying, because it's innovators like you out there that are really helping us as organizations. And it may not be the first time, second time, third time, or whatever, but don't stop. Keep going on it. But yes, it would help. And this is what I've tried to say overall with, the people that work with me is I think it'd be more helpful to you if you knew what it is that we're still trying to solve.
Yeah.
What are the things that that we need help on over at Houston Methodist, instead of you trying to second guess? But the other thing that I would tell you is I want to show of hands in here. How many of you have had a healthcare situation, just that you've had to go to a clinic, you've had to go see a doctor, you've had to go to a hospital?
Everybody.
Raise your hands. There you go. Everybody. Use that experience. Is there something in that experience that you're like, wow, I wish it could be this, or wish it could be that, or a little bit better, or the way they contacted me, whatever? I mean, look, we're always trying to think of ways that we can improve, but you're the ones that are out there too that are trying to develop products to make it better. That's it. So remember the the proposition of what you're trying to bring to us, and when you come and talk to us, what value is it bringing? What
I think
problem
I
is
caught
it solving?
you're part of a VC. Was that? Yes. Every VC has their own different thesis. Either you're going everywhere or you might be focused. I know, for example, I don't know of a single large corporation that does innovation that doesn't have some type of touch with the external ecosystem. It's a partnership with the ION. It's a deal flow from this VC, etc.
Yeah.
And not all of them have to be financial transactions. We don't all have to be a part of the LP. I have multiple VCs that I talk to on a quarterly basis, and it is, hey, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
It's a 30-minute meeting. What are you looking for? Have you seen anything? And you develop those relationships. And I've actually found other startups that I've given to the VCs.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not the typical direction of how that works. But that's another thing that I would do.
We're
Yeah, we do the same. I mean, that's one of the other things that we were comparing notes on is, we have a lot of organizations that we talk with as well, and it is periodically would say, who are your top 3 companies, that you're working with right now? Is it anything that you believe would be of interest to us?
probably only time for 1 or 2 more questions, but I'm really trying to give practical advice as much as I can. So my response to that would be, because I do it, almost all big corporations are publicly listed. That means there's an earnings call. That means there's a shareholder report. So within reason, you're going to get an insight into which technologies any given large corporation are focused on. So that's a starting point. Top of my head, BP, well, they're pivoting and they're going heavy into wind. It's right there in the earnings report. Secondly, we live in an era of social media. The innovation and technology managers of nearly every big company are on LinkedIn or on Instagram. What are they posting about? What conferences are they at? And then thirdly, what other technologies are they already piloting and promoting? So there's a lot of public, and you don't have to second guess it for nearly any large corporation. With some basic detective work. 1 more maybe? Come on, who wants to be last? Yes.
Hello, my name is Joel Shaw from Geotech Solutions, and I come from the energy groups and the oil and gas. In the oil and gas, if they're going to help you out, sometimes they want a non-disclosure agreement to get the edge for a customer or for the industry.
Yes.
And I have a product, but it's through my son, through the medical aspect. If carrying the weight of Methodist Hospital will be a great benefit. So is that something that, if you help us, would that be a non-disclosure agreement? Is there legalities on it? Is there something that we can cooperate or something like that? Or
So you're talking about a technology that has a relevant application in oil and gas, but it also has a relevant application in healthcare.
Well, I just know that in the oil and gas, it's going to be an edge because if I have a product that I present to FMC or whoever, you don't want the competitors to get know of it. So that's something that it's going to be directly to you all. But and my other aspect with the product that I have in the medical field, the weight of a hospital will carry a lot more. And if you help us conceive this product, we have a patent, we have a concept. Would that be? Would you help us out, even though it might help another hospital?
Well, again, there are sometimes, yes, that we require the non-disclosure as well, right, for overall, sharing of information. But, I think, too, if we're going to, share our knowledge and expertise with you, it's because it's going to be benefiting Houston Methodist, not another organization outside. And so that's where I would say in the beginning, that we want to make sure that you're working directly with us, and that you're making sure that you're solving the problems for us that we're doing. But it's not to say that we're not trying to own your company or anything else. We just want to make sure, because we're putting our sweat equity into your company and making it the best that it can be. So we need to make sure that we get the value out of that sooner rather than later. Yes.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter if another company, another hospital uses it.
No, we have a company that we're working with right now, and they're out selling their products, to many other healthcare systems. But I would say if it is a new use case that hasn't been developed, we're going to be the ones to bring that up first before it goes out to another organization.
I would add, the rule of thumb is reward in proportion to risk. So if you're trying to get a product into a company and they want all the risk on you, you go develop it, you go test it, you go prove it, you're taking all the risk, then you're not giving exclusivity to anybody.
Yeah.
But if a large corporation client is prepared to share that risk with you of developing the product, then they should get a proportionate share of the reward too. So that's the kind of rule of thumb. Risk, reward.
Everybody wants to be first to market, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think that was the last question. So thank you everybody for your attention.
Let's give them another round of applause, guys. Thank you so much.